Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the Plan and Zone Commission meeting of today, June 4th. We will start with our public hearing agenda. Roll call, please. Commissioner Tallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dunlop.
Here.
Eichelberry.
Here.
Hepner.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Tallman here. Ingram.
Present.
Manus.
Here.
Garrington.
Here.
Schilling.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Schneider's excused. We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Tallman. I'd like to caution everybody to please turn off your cell phones. It could interrupt our audio transmission or recording. You all have an opportunity to speak for 5 minutes. We will start with the first item, which is case REZ 24-02, request of Riverview Heights LLC to rezone approximately 1.47 acres of land located on the north side of the 700 block of East 6th Street from R4C, single family and two family central residential zoning district to R-MF, multifamily residential district. Matt?
Thank you. So the subject property, it's outlined in red on the map. So located just at the northwest corner of 6th Street and Sylvan Avenue. And then it's bounded also by the north by East 7th Street, which is a historic brick street. So it currently consists of 6 vacant single family and two family lots. The topography of this site is quite challenging as it sits on a hill. So the center of the block is the tallest portion, and then it grades down towards the intersection of Sylvan and 7th. There's a retaining wall along 6th Street, and then 7th Street would serve more as an access point to develop this site. So here's a couple photos of the subject property. So the photo on the left is that view looking north west at the site. So it's currently vacant land. You could see it going uphill. There's the retaining wall along 6th Street. Then the photo on the right shows 7th Street. That is a historic brick street. It has a very narrow pavement width and no sidewalk access. Just based from appearance, it wouldn't meet city standard or code. Kind of functions a little bit more as an alley than a full street. So the purpose of the request, so we currently have 6 vacant single-family lots. The applicant intends to combine them to create a larger, almost 1.5 acre parcel suitable for multifamily development. Existing zoning would just permit single and two family. So the request would be to rezone to a multifamily residential district. And the purpose would be to construct 16 units of housing that would consist of 4 buildings, each with 4 units. So the average of each unit's about 1,500 square feet of living area. Contains a mixture of both 3-bedroom and single-bedroom units. Each one would have a garage space that would be accessed from 7th Street. And they each have patios and elevated decks. So on the screen is the proposed site plan provided by the applicant with a rendering of what one of the model buildings would look like. So it'd be a staggered approach with garages coming off of 7th Street and then sidewalks that extend down the hill to 6th. Here's the next few slides are just renderings of the proposed site. So you see the grading challenges. So it'd be more of a staggered development. In terms of multifamily housing, so 4 units each. I believe there are 2 units on the top floor, 2 units below. Just another view from 6th Street. You can see the retaining wall and sidewalk along 6th Street. That's the view from 7th Street. Separate from the rezoning, the development would have to reconstruct 7th Street to provide adequate access to the new garages. So the land's currently zoned R-4C, which is single family and two family central residential. That's meant to preserve and protect Davenport's dense, central, and established neighborhoods. And it's also meant to ensure that new development is complementary to the existing and surrounding neighborhoods and that it fits the character and context. So the proposal would be for multifamily residential. That's meant to accommodate a higher density of housing in the city and allows for a mixture of housing types, including single-family semi-detached duplexes, and multifamily. So the map shows you the neighborhood's predominantly zoned R-4C, surrounded by single and two-family residential. There are some small pockets of multifamily housing on Division Street, and then one in the mid-block of 8th. And then as you go about a block south, you're in the industrial mixed-use zoning district. Our future land use map shows this area as residential general, and then you have downtown land use as you get further south of Division, or I'm sorry, Charlotte. So in terms of public input, abutting property owners within 200 feet were sent a letter in the mail notifying them of a neighborhood meeting and tonight's public hearing. And then a public hearing notice was posted in the Quad City Times and a sign was placed at the property. So the neighborhood meeting was held here at City Hall just last week. There were about 7 members of the public in attendance. Concerns raised at that meeting were the preference for single-family dwellings and home ownership, opposition to the proposed density and the scale of development, how the units would be managed as rentals, not just in the immediate future, but across the lifespan of a development, wanting the development to fit the character and context of the neighborhood. There were concerns raised over traffic and congestion and safety with adding 16 units to that portion of the neighborhood. And then a number of concerns were also raised about the condition of 7th Street, so how narrow it is, the steep grade. There was a preference to preserve the historic brick street, a desire for sidewalks, and then addressing increased traffic. So for tonight, it's to hold the public hearing, and then staff will provide a formal recommendation at the next meeting on June 18th.
Thank you, Matt. Commissioners, any questions of staff at this point? Commissioner Eichelberry.
I might be answering my own question, but is this density enough to warrant a traffic study, or is it too small?
Generally, engineering would require a traffic study if it increases traffic by 500 it counts. So 16 units is not going to produce that level.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Eichelberry. Commissioner Manus.
Thank you. You mentioned the historic brick street. Does that have some sort of a formal designation? And is there a program to preserve historic brick streets?
So generally how the historic brick street part works is there is a list that is held as basically an addendum to city code and is managed by the city engineer. Historic brick streets, if there is a petition to remove them rather than replace them under the specifications required for historic brick streets, would go to the Historic Preservation Commission.
So this street would fall in that category?
Correct, yes.
And is there a proposal to remove it at this point?
There is indication that for the desirability of making the development work, that they would like to remove that as a historic brick street. It is a separate process from this rezoning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Manus. Commissioner Schelling, did you wish to speak?
If they were to change that 7th Street, would that be the developer's cost to change that 7th Street? And would that include widening that street?
Yes, it would be at the developer's expense. It has not been discussed to widen. There are some overhead power lines that are in the way for that. I've been trying to do a little bit of research as to why it's a street. It is only 20 feet wide. It is the width of an alley. I haven't found an answer to that yet.
Thank you, Commissioner Schelling. Commissioner Tallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To follow up on that, Laura, if this rezoning was to go through, we would see this again during the plating stage. Is that correct? Would this go through the?
It depends on the petitioner's how they want to move forward. They could do a one-lot subdivision to move that forward, or if they're choosing to redesignate them into separate lots. But if they're just combining the lots together, it's technically doesn't fall within the jurisdiction of the subdivision code.
So then there is a possibility that we may not see, I guess, the details or design of the new road?
Correct.
And then that would just be a Public Works Building Department issue that would be internal?
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tallman. Commissioner Hefner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are there other historic homes in the neighborhood around this proposed development
There are a few, yes.
on the register?
Well, Leclerc House isn't far away. There's another one on the west side of the, did you
The
mark it?
the opposite corner of this block actually has a national landmark
Okay,
at the corner of Grand and Sixth. There's an old church there that's a national landmark.
okay.
But I will caution, in terms of character, there is a new state ordinance that does not let the city do conditions related to design when it is specific to building finish. So we're not going to be able to do that in terms of design.
Do you know how long the property has been in its current state?
About 30, 40 years.
Okay. And then will this be market rate housing?
Yes.
Okay, that's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hefner. Commissioner Dunlap.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just, has there been any discussion about stormwater management on, since it all slopes down to Sixth Street, what type of storm sewer systems in the street? I mean, conceivably, you're putting a pretty heavy amount of surface, hard surface into what's a completely green space. And I realize there's probably not any ability to do like a detention pond on such a small project, but you know, is the street storm sewer really able to handle that amount of runoff that's gonna come from, you know, this type of site, I guess? Has anybody looked at that?
We have had high-level discussions about stormwater, and they will have to do stormwater detention as part of this. The current plan would be to have it, let me get to a good slide to show you. It would be kind of at the low spot at Sixth and Sylvan. I'm sorry. Sixth and Sylvan over here. But related to capacity, that is something that I can discuss with engineering. But detention would help with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dunlap. Commissioner Tallman.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Staff, do you have any history on this site? It seems that maybe a while ago, just looks awful familiar, that maybe something came
Yes.
through us once before.
Yes, actually, the city has owned them since the 90s. It is something, the city has actually invested heavily in this area to stabilize it. There are several houses that were built with home and CDBG funds on and around this area, as well as some involvement with Habitat for Humanity off of 6th Street. The city is in ownership of these properties. We've, from what I understand, have owned them since the 90s. We have tried to have these developed. Most recently, I want to say it was back in 2017, there was proposal to do single-family homes at this location. That's why they're platted as they are. That's what you would have seen as part of your previous involvement in it. Unfortunately, single-family homes are not cash flowing in this area. They cannot finance them with a traditional mortgage. So, for example, the city projects that were built, I think were around $300,000 investments. They sold for $100,000. So the neighborhood just can't support traditional development, I would say.
All right, thank you.
Or at least that was back in 2017 when we built them.
Thank you, Commissioner Tallman. Commissioner Garrington.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first picture you showed shows sidewalks going down to Sixth Street. Get that.
Sorry,
Keep going
wrong way.
backwards there. Coming out of what I don't know if maybe called the front or the back of the building. I'm not sure which it is, front and back. There are no sidewalks shown on the pictures that follow that. Go to the next one. Nope, yeah, same thing, there are no sidewalks being shown. And I didn't see anything about sidewalks on 7th Street, which is probably where everybody's gonna be coming in and out.
Right.
And so,
Yep. I have a tiny bit of information on that.
for
So there are existing sidewalks on 6th and Sylvan that are actually installed by the city as well as that retaining wall. The requirement to build a sidewalk on 7th is something that the developer could request council for a sidewalk waiver, meaning that they would not have to install as part of this development. I would say the topography is a challenge in terms of making them ADA compliant with grading. That might be slightly challenging to have sidewalks, public sidewalks go in. I think that same might still apply private sidewalk-wise, but at least as it stands right now, there's not enough public right-of-way to have a road and sidewalk in it. So right now, it's a 20-foot wide right-of-way, sidewalks are 5 feet. So at least as it stands right now, there's not enough room to construct sidewalks unless they construct them on private property.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Garrington. Any additional questions of staff at this time before I ask the petitioner to speak? Seeing none, would the petitioner like to step forward and explain your project?
I'm Andrew Dasso, principal architect with Streamline Architects, designed the units. The developer is in Dallas today, so he wasn't available. So the individual units, it's a 3-bedroom unit on the I'd call it the grade level, which is the garage level, and the second level, which is the live-in attic space, side-by-side units with a basement unit that's a 2-bedroom. Those units open up to the south here that you're seeing. The intention of the sidewalk, we will have access or some sort of connection to 6th Street. It's undetermined at this point where the best connection is with the way the grades work. Likely it'll be a tie of sidewalks that'll have a common staircase that connects to 6th Street, I'm guessing. With the garages on the 7th Street side, the entry to the units on the upper level are on the sides. The entry to the units to the lower level are actually on 6th Street. So those sidewalks and the connection is important for guests. There's a direct stair that leads to the basement unit from the garage. What else? We decided to do the 4 units just to gain some space between the units so that we could step the finished floor elevations because the grades slope in 2 different directions, so the site's very challenging. The 2 are on the right; those are higher up. That area is fairly flat. This 3rd one is probably going to be the most difficult. 7th Street really begins to kind of like steep increase or incline, as shown in that one picture. With regarding the Brick Street, the developers kind of, we're requesting a waiver likely. We do know that the street needs to be repaired, and due to the incline of the 7th Street on the east side, repairing it with a brick, it's not the smartest, I don't think, for just slip resistance and sliding down the hill. So, and I think most of the street's been patched already with concrete and asphalt, gravel. I was the developer of the previous side, so I have personal experience with this property, but it's part of the reason we're designing it again for these fourplexes. They will be all market rate units. Jim Thompson is the developer. He has a property management company that manages the Modern and Moline on Fifth Avenue, and also 400 River in Davenport, across from the Freight House. Guys, any questions for me?
Thank you, Mr. Dasso. Commissioners, any questions of the petitioner? Final call. Commissioner Garrington?
Would, this is all going to be rental, so there's no HOA?
Correct.
Okay. So the rental company would be, if you have a hill sidewalk going down those hills, you're going to have a mess when it comes to wintertime. So, okay, just one.
Yep, he will have, he does a very good job maintaining his properties, and they're at the higher end of the market. The ideal tenant or resident here would be a short-term person working at the Arsenal or downtown, that would like proximity to the island.
And I can see some concern about water runoff during construction. We had a problem over by Bettendorf, we all remember that, and there was a disaster.
I live in that neighborhood, yeah, I remember it.
Okay, just want to keep that in the back of your mind.
Yep, and also, I think, as Laura pointed out, we'll do the stormwater calcs, and naturally, it makes the most sense to have it all kind of flow with grade and have it on the corner of Sylvan and Sixth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Garrington. Any additional questions? Final call? Thank you, Mr. Dasso. Appreciate your comments. I will open up this petition to the audience. If anybody would like to step forward and speak either in favor of or in opposition to, please do so. Please limit your conversation to about 5 minutes. And also remember, I need a name and an address. Would anybody like to step forward?
Hello. My name's Isaac Wilmington. I live at 734 7th Street, where this project will be directly built in front of me. I reside there for like 14 years.
So you're right north of this project?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Myself and Mary Chamberlain is on the higher hill right next to me. Great neighbor. If she's still around, I mean, I haven't talked to her for about a year. Concerns. I helped with Habitat Humanity build a lot of those properties down there. So we have a lot of home ownership down there. I'll be 49 June 8th, so shortly I'll be approaching a half century. So I've been on that block area pretty much all my life. I always lived under Locust Street, so born and raised here and everything like that. So I've seen the ups and the downs. So when I decided to purchase that property, and I told my wife that we're gonna move to this area, we're missing a lot of the homes that I helped construct that are there now. But long story short is I'm invested in that neighborhood right there. So I took the liberty to walk the neighborhood and meet my neighbors when I seen that letter come out with the city hall. I mean, out the public works to find out what's going on and all that good stuff before I went to the last meeting. So with that being said, at that time, I didn't know what the meetings were gonna consist of on the first meeting. So I hurried up and wrote out a petition for those in favor for the build and those not in favor of the build. So with that being said, I decided to take my journey, my children and all, and we walked the neighborhood, got to meet the neighbors, to explain, what's going on. A lot of them got the letter, didn't even, take in consideration. So I'm speaking on their behalf right now because they signed the petition. If I need to submit that petition, it's available whenever. Because it was a draw it out quick fast so I can get in there. But I talked to each neighbor with open mind and I asked them how they felt about, with everybody being homeowners down there. So there's probably like maybe one, possibly two rentals on that block right there. Everybody else is homeowners. When I spoke of that to the neighbors, they were like, wow, 16 units, kind of pretty dense for that hill area. And so, not persuading anyone. Nobody was in favor for this bill right there because everybody's close-knitted neighbors and we know we can keep control. We love our area, so we're gonna keep it up to par and police ourselves and make sure that we act right in our surroundings. So, with that being said, I had to, pencil through the paperwork to find out, the proposal of them waiving the sidewalks. I have a 21-year-old daughter just graduated, 4-year degree at Ambrose. She's going in for her master's. Actually in about a month because it's a summer program. It's popping off now. And I have a 8 and 9-year-old son there that I had, after we moved there and I remodeled my home there. So I'm very proud of my home. I invested everything I have in my home. So with this bill being there, I'm concerned with safety. 16 residents is a lot of residents. I figured at a minimum of 3 people in each resident, we're looking at maybe, what's that, 40? That's a lot of, what's that, 48 or some residents. I figured they'd probably have 2 vehicles in a household, so let's dumb it down to like 32 vehicles. That's a lot of intense, a lot of, pets. I'm just dumbing it down to the minimum of what's gonna be there. So I'm like, that's a lot of activity in this quiet area that we have and that the children come at play in the area and everything. And so it's just like, wow, do we need something so massive? I get the challenge is hard to build on it. So I called Ben, who constructs the houses for Habitat. And I asked him, why didn't you guys try to obtain that property there? And he said the difficulty of the terrain and all that makes it too difficult to be in the cap to build on that property. And so I'm like, okay, if that's so, then I'm thinking the geographic terrain or however you would word it is not the right thing to do. Also, waiving, for somebody to try to waive the sidewalks, I took a picture of my vehicle blocking the whole, when I back out my driveway, covering the whole street. So I know I gotta round this up. I'm speaking for everybody, so if I can get it to stretch a little bit longer, it'd be grateful for you guys to hear my concerns on this. But, so I'm like, when I'm backing out and a car's coming through, it's gonna be pretty tight for us to do anything of that resort, especially in the wintertime. A car's backing up, we're going up the hill. I plow everybody out of the area, so the area works fine for me. I plow everybody to get down off of Grand and everything until the city comes. The last couple of years, the city been doing great. The last 10 plus, not so great. We'd be snowed in for like 2 days. So if this bill was to happen, I would be concerned about how am I gonna access my home through all this major construction. There's only Grand Street, I'm in the middle, and there's Sylvan, hilly terrain, and all that right there. So that's a major concern. How would I be inconvenienced on this long process of trying to build if you're taking out the road and everything? I was the one to put the historic road that said that I'm all for the historic road, not for reasons of that. It made me think about the road of why it was even built in brick and all that. And I got to thinking, well, possibility is back in the slave days, slave master with the buggy, all that good stuff, had the slaves built brick by brick, put this road in, and then might have made it importance of you guys to have that historic to leave it there. it travels amongst all of 7th Street, that brick road does. So me thinking that, I don't think that every day. You guys brought that to my attention to make me even think about this road that I travel daily to come to my home. So we have, they mentioned the power. I'm glad they did because I was going to mention that. The telephone poles are right loaded under the street, going straight down. I slide down that street in the winter and everything to get down to it. There's not room for error to run into anything you're going to run into, let alone if there's driveways there and people backing out. You can't stop. You're going to stop, but then how are you going to move after that? So then we're going to have congestion there. So I would ask all of you guys to take a drive down that street. And if you could, drive up it when it's raining. That will probably help you guys out and get you guys to understand what the magnitude of what's going on. So as you can see, I'm very emotional about this because it's like, wow, I wouldn't have put my life savings in my home if they were going to build this units for a revolving door of tenants to come in and out, in and out, and out. And I thought with the volunteering that I did to help construct all those homes that I was really being a part of this neighborhood. So there's a long list of more concerns that I could give you guys, but I figured there might be more meetings for us to do that, or maybe there's a way for me to speak to you guys, more often. I mean, for you guys to hear everything.
I would say if you've got other concerns, you have signatures of
Yes, I
neighbors that
do.
are
I do.
concerned, I would submit them to Laura at Public Works. If you have them
Yes.
with you tonight, submit it
Yes, I
tonight.
have.
If you still have additional concerns, please
tons.
get those to Laura or Matt with Public Works.
Yes. So with that being said, that land is obviously is not good for building homes or anything of that sort, especially of that magnitude, or even the single dwellings due to the fact that nobody's jumped on this property to build on it. And so for us to just say, okay, I get the investors coming through. I get that you guys are like, this is money, we might not have to spend our own money. We can fix this road that we refuse to fix all these years. I get all that. But I'm willing to accept that road to be what it is for us to continue to have homeownership into the neighborhood that we haven't had. If you go back in the history books of this neighborhood was very, very bad. When my sister lived in one of those homes. When I was in like 7th grade, I had my dog down there. I go there every day, and it was rough. It was rough. But so I'm just, at the end of the day, I need more to speak to people more about. But I encourage you guys all to ride down that street and really see what's really going on. Look at the homes that are there. That might look good on there, but it's not gonna look the way it really looks. I mean, the picture is deceiving. No pictures of the house right there, all the houses in front. There should have been a little bit more detail to show what's really right there on that plat. So you can just not see a sidewalk and a brick wall. You should see the whole view of the whole situations. So I encourage you guys all to do that. And I reached out to the historic, can't think of the name, but out of Des Moines, and they're directing to find out how deep this historic is of this street to make sure that this is really the right thing to do for the money. So, and at the end of the day, if that means anything, I'm speaking for all the neighbors down there. Those that, the few who came, a lot of them couldn't make it. This is a little bit difficult for people to stand on, but I will be the speaker for this area. So you'll be dealing with myself. I'm not used to speaking to people in public like this, but I have to do what I have to do to make sure this is not a money grab. You have to look at the quality of life and what's going on right there. And just because it looks good, doesn't mean it is good. So thanks for listening.
I appreciate your time, and like I said, I will
Yes.
encourage the commission to go there. And at the
Yes.
same time, I encourage you to provide the information
will.
to Laura and Matt.
Okay.
Thank you.
You want me to, I'll do it after the meeting.
After the meeting would probably be best. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Would anybody else briefly like to speak?
So I'm a landlord in the neighborhood too. I'm Ray Cornelison. I own Mainstream Properties. We're the little house directly to the west. We're right here. Yep, right there. So we're really concerned about water.
Please step over here so we can get recording.
We're really concerned about water runoff with it also, and traffic. Traffic's gonna be a big thing. This road's only 20 feet wide. They're gonna have people visiting that are gonna be parking on that road, I guarantee it. So how are we gonna get by? How are my tenants gonna get by? You know, you can't widen the road, otherwise you're coming into my property, or you're trying to go up a hill, or you're going into Ike's property over here. You're putting 32, at least 32 vehicles there daily on this road. You know, I'm figuring two adults per property at minimum. And one of the other things we're worried about too is 20 years down the road, this thing turning into another Heatherton, another Hillendale, another Americana Park. You know, we finally got this neighborhood stabilized. I've owned this property. We've been in the neighborhood. We've got other properties in the neighborhood. We've been over here 20 years. We stay on top of our tenants like crazy. And we're just worried about, you know, I always worry about other landlords. I mean, you can check my record with the city. You know, we own Mainstream Properties, Blue Moon Investments, and Pennywise Investments. And we try to stabilize areas we go into. We rehab our properties. We don't ask for any city money, and we get it done. And they're getting free money to do this, and then they're gonna destabilize this neighborhood, I guarantee it. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you. Anybody else? Final call, please step forward quickly.
Yeah, my name is Demisi, and I live on the East C Street, and 719. So I joined my voice to my neighbors about the issue. I just want to mention that on that street is very tight. Only that church over there on Sundays when people come to church, the area is very congested. On Sundays, we struggle. Plus, snow time, when it snows, that street is one of the last priorities, and which is understandable. But we struggle before we get the city to blow the snow. And one more thing is, before I move to that area, I think it's a safe area for me and for my children. So I don't know how it's gonna be after everything is done. So my concern is the safety and plus the way the whole street is gonna be very congested and our kids. So I don't know. So that's my concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Final call. Commissioners, any final questions? Seeing none, we will close this. Oh, you're pressing the wrong button.
I am. Sorry.
Go ahead, Commissioner Schilling.
So I do have a question. I mean, if you were to build there, how would you access the property and still allow residents access to their property? Because you're going to have to come in from 7th Street. Isn't that correct?
Yes, the garage entry is off of 7th Street. The garages are set off of 7th Street, 20 feet. There's a 2-car garage for the 3-bedroom unit, single car garage for the 2-bedroom unit.
But my question is, even to construct them,
Construction access?
how are you going to be able to even access that and still allow residents? Because you're going to have to bring in heavy equipment.
Yeah, that'll be a requirement either way. We will, first thing to do will be rough grading, set the pads the way that our finished elevations are. Everything will be accessed off of Sylvan. My guess, I'm only a designer, but 7th Street isn't in a condition that you can even get trucks up it. So, when drywall comes, it'll be lifted up. It'll be off of 6th. Grading is going to happen from Sylvan, I'm guessing. had two builders look at this, they're confident that they can do it, so. I'm just a designer.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Final call? Seeing none? We will close case REZ 24-02. It will return to us in, what, 2 weeks?
June 18th,
It'll be then at same time, 5 o'clock in this,
over and across the street in the,
at
yep,
the police
in
department,
the police department community room across the street.
just inside the front door.
Next meeting on June 18th, same time, 5 o'clock, over police department community room. Yep.
Any additional, Laura?
Related to that.
No, I mean, do you have any other comments regarding? Sure. that.
Just before you leave, make sure I get your petition, please.
That will open up case ORD 24-03 is a request of Grace Real Estate to amend the principal use standards for neighborhood commercial establishment in section 17.08.030B as a Victor of the Davenport zoning code to add daycare center and medical dental office as permitted uses with a neighborhood commercial establishment. Matt?
Thank you. So city staff have been working with the private property owner that acquired a former church and was looking to do several uses in that building that aren't currently allowed within the zoning code. So as a result, they submitted a request to amend our zoning code. So that request is to allow daycare center as well as medical/dental office as a permitted use under the definition of neighborhood commercial establishment. So since this is a text change, it would apply to all properties throughout the city of Davenport. So currently, neighborhood commercial establishments are only allowed in residential districts. So neighborhood commercial establishments, they are a commercial use within a residential neighborhood that is non-residential in its original construction and or use. So examples of that typically include churches or your typical maybe neighborhood corner store. So neighborhood commercial establishments, our zoning code does outline principal use standards associated with them. So they're only allowed within an existing structure that's non-residential in its construction. And then it does allow for a very narrowly defined scope of uses that are permitted. So that includes art gallery, art studio, office, personal service establishments, so that's like your beauty salon or barbershop, restaurants, and retail good establishments, with the exception of selling alcohol or tobacco products. So the applicant's request would be to allow daycare center and medical and dental office under this specific code section. Additional principal use standards are no off-street parking is required. However, off-street parking currently provided must be maintained. Does not allow for a drive-through facility. Outside storage or display is prohibited. All business servicing, processing, and storage must be located within a structure. And then signs are limited to those allowed in our commercial transitional district. So daycare centers, they are a licensed facility where for a portion of the day, care and supervision is provided for children and or the elderly in a protective setting that is not related to the owner or operator. Daycare centers within a residential dwelling are prohibited. So as they stand, they're allowed in multifamily residential districts, our full span of commercial zoning districts, a special use in our light industrial, permitted in industrial mixed use, and then allowed in our institutional campus district. There are a number of principal use standards associated with daycares. Only a couple of them are applicable as they pertain to a neighborhood commercial establishment. So that's that each daycare must have a state license and a registration. And then the other one that would be applicable is that a daycare center must provide a pickup or drop-off area. When a daycare center is part of a multi-tenant commercial center, the pickup or drop-off area must not interfere with vehicle circulation in the parking lot, including blocking of the drive aisles. And then the second portion of the request would be to allow medical and dental office within a neighborhood commercial establishment. So that's defined by a facility operated by one or more physicians, dentists, chiropractors, psychiatrists, therapists, or other licensed practitioners of the healing arts for the examination and treatment of persons solely for an outpatient basis. Medical offices also include alternative medicine clinics such as acupuncture, holistic therapies, physical therapy. Under our use matrix, that's allowed in our commercial zoning districts, industrial mixed use, and then our institutional campus, which typically would be like a hospital. So in terms of public input, staff published a notice in the Quad City Times. We have not received any comments, written or phone calls from the public regarding this request, and we will keep the commission updated on any additional correspondence for the next meeting. So tonight, it is to hold the public hearing, and then a formal staff recommendation will be provided at the next meeting on the 18th.
Thank you, Matt. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Hepner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess if you're opening up medical and dental practice, then ADA would be required. So there'd be modifications to the building to support ADA, current ADA.
Really, any change of use would require ADA. So yeah, that would be a component that would be under consideration.
All right. And then when we're talking about medical, we're talking about strictly ambulatory, but people that are procedures that are, what? I know there were some listed, but we're talking people come in, stand up, and they go out standing up, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's completely outpatient. So anything else would be considered under like a hospital use. So yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hepner. Commissioner Schilling.
So if this were changed, we're still saying that it has to be already an established building in that neighborhood. Is that correct?
Correct, yep. So it would something that would, the original construction was non-residential. And it's also, it would still require to get a special use permit from the Zoning Board of Adjustment. It just opens up the opportunity for this potential use in that building.
Thank you, Commissioner Schilling. Any additional questions? Commissioner Eichelberry.
Do you have an estimate of how many of these types of properties exist in the city? I can think of several in my own neighborhood, but do you have an estimate?
I don't have an estimate, no. We could, I don't know the best way to go about that, but it would be like churches or old schools, maybe some more historic ones a little bit further into a core of a city that were corner stores or things like that back in the day.
Thank you, Commissioner Eichelberry. Any additional questions before I open it to the audience? Seeing none, would anybody in the audience care to step forward?
Good evening, Commissioners, staff. I'm Brett Bosick. I'm a co-owner of the building that prompted this zoning text amendment. It's on Telegraph Road, so not a lot of people are wanting to go, or businesses are wanting to go into Telegraph. But part of buying this or purchasing this building is to really kind of revitalize the neighborhood and put something positive within that jurisdiction. So, like it's already been mentioned, a special use permit has to be conducted with this and a hearing with this regardless at the specific property. And I can just speak for ours on, Telegraph Road, 2651, which is a extremely large building. You're gonna have extremely difficult time trying to find a church of that magnitude, especially at this point in our history. That's gonna be able to fit that whole building and be able to just sustain themselves there, especially with the rising costs of buildings as well. So it's 20,000 square feet. We've already had the fire Marshall come through. We're planning on putting up, panel within that, all, necessary improvements to make it up to code to get it to where it needs to be for the daycare, as it's going to have a little bit more requirements than you're going to get out of a different use. So I also want to add that the reception facilities have been added as well as another special use for this type of neighborhood, correct?
Reception facilities are special use separate from this use. So they're a standalone use where a special use permit would be.
For the residential type of building that we're talking about, it's also within the code, correct?
It would be any residential property
Okay.
would be
Yeah.
eligible
So,
for that.
And the reason I say that is, people are, the city has allowed for other uses to, be conducted at these sites. So, yeah, churches are coming up for sale more frequently. And a lot of these are residentially coded, if not all of them. So gonna have to start thinking outside the box of what is gonna be allowed there, or gonna have a lot of rezoning requests for the building themselves. So we're trying to stick with Davenport 2030, which is to keep that residential. There's 70 parking spots at that specific building where ours is. And the area needs daycares, especially down there. So we already have found a reputable daycare center that's already operating out of Bettendorf. And they are, their intent is to lease the space. And like I said, we walked through it with the fire marshal as well. So with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions of the petitioner? Or the developer in this case? Seeing none, final call. Commissioner Garrington.
Just quick, which church are we talking, what was it before?
Grace United.
Grace?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Can I just quickly speak to the medical offices? I completely forgot that. Thank you. So I, by trade, am a mental health therapist, and I own a Bettendorf Counseling Center in Bettendorf. And so looking to also put a couple therapists down there. That's the reason for the zoning text amendment there. It's going to be a daycare. Our kids need more mental health services. So we're talking maybe 2 therapists down there. So that is the reason for the zoning text amendment with the medical dental office. Thanks.
Thank you. Final call for questions or comments from the audience. Seeing none, that will close case ORD 24-03. It too will return to us on June 18th, across the street in a police community room. That will close the public hearing. We'll move on to the regular meeting agenda. Roll call, please. Commissioner Tallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dunlop.
Here.
Eichelberry.
Here.
Hefner.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Tallman here. Ingram.
Present.
Manus.
Here.
Garrington.
Here.
Schilling.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
And Schneider's excused. We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Tallman. Report of city council activity, Laura.
Thank you. All right. So the case 24-05, which was the Red Barn Storage LLC's final plat of room in second edition, was approved last week. That's it.
Thank you.
Everything else is moving through. It's just not approved yet.
Thank you. Secretary report.
Move report.
Second.
All those in favor of the report as printed signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Plan, comprehensive plan, anything new?
And not at this time.
Thank you. There is no zoning activity. There is no old subdivision, but we do have one new piece of business. It's case ROW 24-03, the request of Davenport Community School District to vacate West Fifth Street between Cedar Street and Howell Street. City staff recommends that the City Plan and Zoning Commission accept the listed findings to vacate West Fifth Street between Cedar Street and Howell Street in case ROW 24-03 to the City Council with a recommendation for approval, subject to the following 4 findings and 1 condition, and I so move.
Second.
Case ROW 24-03 has been moved and seconded for discussion. Matt?
Thank you. So the request is from the Davenport Community School District to vacate Fifth Street between Cedar Street and Howell. So the purpose is to facilitate the redevelopment of Smart Middle School. So currently Fifth Street, it allows for 2-way traffic and there's head-in parking on both the north and south side of the street. Currently functions similar to a parking lot for the school district. So the subject area, just under an acre. So Smart Middle School has been working with Bray Architects to conceptualize a design to meet the school's needs for their future. So they've looked at the option of preserving Fifth Street in its current configuration. They found that doing that option would result in a taller building height for the development, created challenges for phasing redevelopment, and then it would also require students to cross the street during the day to access different site amenities. So after exploring some different alternatives, they've decided that the best approach for the school district would be to vacate Fifth Street to create one larger development site. So that map on the right shows the proposed footprint of the new building. They're keeping the gymnasium, demolishing the rest of the existing building, and then building new in a north-south configuration closer to Howell Street. So the dashed red line indicates the footprint of where Fifth Street is in relation to their concept plan. So city staff are looking at existing traffic patterns in the area. So 4th Street, as it stands today, is a one-way traffic heading westbound. Cedar Street is one-way going northbound between 4th and 5th. It does have on-street parking on both sides. Pavement's about 32 feet wide. So staff have been looking at, the proposed concept plan provided by the school and advise converting Cedar Street to two-way traffic with parking only on the west side, just to help facilitate some of the traffic congestion associated with the school district under their concept plan. Howell Street as well is one way just southbound. It's a very narrow street. It's one way with parking just on one side. Pavement width, you're probably looking at less than 20 feet or 20 feet at the most. So city staff don't believe that it's feasible to make that two-way to still allow for two-way traffic and parking. So we're advising that that just remain under its current condition. In terms of zoning, so the school sits on land zoned for single and two-family residential, which is similar to the surrounding neighborhood. And then it's shown as civic and institutional in our future land use map. So right-of-way vacations, they're a 2-step process. The first is to determine if the right-of-way is needed for a public purpose. And then the second would be to negotiate the terms of conveyance, which is dealt with at City Council. So in terms of public input, city staff kind of expanded our typical 200-foot notice and notified property owners within the larger neighborhood area. A public hearing was held at last meeting, as well as a neighborhood meeting that was held on site on May 7th. No one from the public attended the public hearing here at Plan and Zone Commission, and I think just a couple people attended the neighborhood meeting, more so out of curiosity for the redevelopment of the school. So with that, city staff is recommending approval of the proposed vacation with the findings that vacating the right-of-way will facilitate the redevelopment of Smart Middle School. The utilities within the public right-of-way, which in this case includes sewer, be removed and relocated prior to development. 3, based on the conceptual redevelopment plan for the middle school, drop-off and pickup will be shifted more so onto private property rather than within the public right-of-way. And then converting Cedar Street to two-way traffic will mitigate some of the traffic concerns in the area and throughout the neighborhood. So the one condition that's proposed is that existing utilities located within the right-of-way, subject to vacation, be granted an access easement for maintenance until their relocation has been completed. So that's a standard condition. With the redevelopment of the school, the sewer line and water lines will have to be relocated, as well as the utility poles that span that segment of Fifth Street.
Thank you, Matt. Commissioners, any questions? Seeing none, would anybody from the audience care to speak? Final call for questions from either party. Seeing none, roll call, please. I missed one again?
Did you miss one?
Eichelberry. Commissioner Eichelberry.
No.
Ready for roll call? We ready?
Roll call? Okay. Roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dunlap,
Yes.
Eichelberry,
Yes.
Hepner,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Tallman, yes. Manus,
Yes.
Garrington,
Yes.
Schilling,
Yes.
and Thomas. Yes. Motion carries. Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Commissioner Tallman. That would conclude zoning activity. We'll move on to, our subdivision activity. We'll move on to future business. Anything, Laura?
So just a reminder, the recommendation to council for the 2 public hearings today will be at our June 18th meeting. Again, we will be over in the police department community room because council will be having their committee of the whole meeting here due to the federal holiday on that Wednesday, and our offices are closed here. There will also be a final plat, just a 2-lot subdivision, also on that agenda.
Thank you, Laura. Any communications or additional business? Nothing?
Not at this time.
Seeing nothing from the commission?
Sorry. I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you for your attendance. Please drive home safely.